I am here today and I'm joining Mental Health Coalition Instagram handle to talk about something that I know resonates with all of us. That's why so many of you are logging in right now. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And MHC, who was founded by fashion designer, and I'm a fan of everything he does, Kenneth Cole, is hosting this ambitious project to bring all of us together. And I see those numbers increasing. So call all of your friends, call everybody. The conversation has started. I'm going to bring in the one and only Senator Cory Booker shortly. And the design of this is to bring in thought leaders, influencers, actors, TV personalities, athletes, all of us together, no matter the title that we have behind our name, to bring us together to have one-on-one conversations, to encourage people to find someone to support them in their time of need. Whether you feel that it is something small that's simmering that can go into a boil, or something that's already at a point where you feel you cannot manage it. So we're all here to share our stories and to have candid one-on-one conversations. So thank you all for joining us. I am having a conversation with New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. I'm going right now, and let's bring him in. Request to the senator to join us. I'm so excited to talk with him. He's excited to join. I saw him right there. There you
are. Oh, I'm so good. I'm so glad to be on. First of all, you have no apologies. First of all, we are all late. We all have challenges, and so no mom meltdown. You are the best, and you are worth the wait, too.
Listen, I have to say, you are my favorite Jersey resident, second to the Jersey resident that I spoke with today, the one and only Queen Latifah.
All right.
On the show today. So I got a chance to talk to Queen Latifah, taping her show right there in the heart of Jersey. And now I get a chance to talk to you, Senator Booker. So this is a win-win for all of us today.
I love it. I love it. And you're not so far away. I mean, you sort of are in the greater Newark metropolitan area.
100%. And me and my family are looking at a place in Jersey. So we'll talk about that later.
All right. All right.
But I'm just so honored to have this conversation with you today because, as you know, we got new guidelines from the CDC. A lot of people are finally feeling some relief there, getting vaccinated, family members. So we're looking at moving forward. But you and I both know, we talk a lot about our past and our childhoods. You can't move forward until we talk about the things that have happened this past year. And the pandemic and our mental health has been an ongoing conversation. And I'm curious at this point, how you describe it. How do you feel the overall impact of the pandemic and the mental health component of it, how that's going? Are we talking about it in real and raw enough terms?
We're not, and we don't as a society. You know, mental health and physical health are really the same thing, and none of us are invulnerable. None of us are immune to everything. And there are a lot of life traumatizing moments that can really affect your mental health. And the pandemic, as you said, we've all just come out of long periods of isolation, some of us very isolated. We've come through periods of anxiety and fear, justifiable when you have a nation that's lost almost 600,000 people. And that also means a lot of us are coming out of periods of deep grief, where we've lost people close to us, or financial crisis, which is another stressor that can cause real damage to our mental health well-being. And so I don't think we have really talked about this. And I even felt, you know, during the pandemic, I was alone for a long period of time. My significant other was in LA taking care of her parents. And it was the longest period I think I've ever spent in my house alone without engaging with people. And for any of us, that's a challenge. So I'm glad that you're speaking it. And we have to destigmatize all of us talking about mental health challenges. And many of us carry traumas from our past that deeply affect our lives, whether it is sexual abuse that we've had, sexual assault, stressors on our childhood that could be from poverty to even facing real challenges when it comes to injury or loss. So I just hope we can get to a point. This is why I'm so thrilled about what Kenneth Cole and others are doing, of us talking about this.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned just our own past trauma. I've been open about the loss of my sister to domestic violence. And throughout this pandemic, I've been fortunate enough, and I say fortunate enough, to work alongside organizations talking about the mental health struggle, specifically as it relates to survivors of domestic violence and the many that we don't know who are trapped in homes right now with abusers. So this is so many layers of it. I mean, I logged in jokingly saying mommy meltdown, but let's face it, work is home, home is work. If you're lucky enough to even be working, what do you think you've learned about yourself and your acknowledgement of mental health? You talked about, being alone for the first time without your significant other. What else did you learn about yourself?
Well, first of all, I didn't come to this process unaware that this was going to be a challenge. And, we are from Black families, you and I, and from Black community, and we know that within certain ethnic groups, there's even more of a stigma around these things. And I think one of my more painful periods was seeing my dad, who was going through big life transitions, diagnosed with Parkinson's, and what that might mean. I always knew that one of his biggest fears was having a degenerative disease, and then he gets one. And then retiring from his business. So much of the identity for so many of us is what we do. And I watched him struggling with depression, or at least struggling with those transitions. And I remember having a conversation with him about therapy, because coming from a different generation than him, to me, it was more readily acceptable. And I just remember his resistance to that. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who need help, but feel stigmatized. And so I actually am one of these folks that know that this is a real issue and asks for help. And whether that's, hey, I need to create some community around me, my family, others, I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be facing a lot of I'm going to be, as an elected official, often confronting a lot of sadness because people are turning to me. Yeah. I need to create some community around myself. And I was very deliberate in that when I was in the pandemic, to try to make sure I had ways of dealing with this. And I know something you and I share. I also know when I journal, it helps. When I write when I'm honest and just put my anxieties or my fears on the paper and I see them, I feel often that's a coping mechanism. So I've also helped to deal with strategies to help me and my well-being.
Well, that's the thing. I do transcendental meditation. I love writing. I just wrote my first novel, and it was, people said, how did you do a novel and a talk show and a kid? And I said, honestly, that was therapy for me. It gave me a chance to escape in so many ways. At cooking, I do it poorly, but that's also a stress reliever for me in my home to try and do these things. But I want to specifically also talk to you about mental health, as we talk about our culture, being Black, being unapologetic Black children who've seen it all and watched our parents grow and pour their love into us. There's something that you can discuss from your perspective as a Black man. My dad was in the Army for 30 years. He wasn't from a generation, to your point, like your father, who leaned on the community because they were supposed to be the upright, stiff, for the family. How do you feel that we're discussing this in terms of men, particularly Black men, when you look at 4% of the mental health therapists are Black, which is a small number?
Look, I really think we're in a crisis in our country. Suicide rates, drug addiction, these are related issues to mental health. Depression, where people, you get these people that say, just be happy. Well, you're stuck. That's like telling somebody who broke their leg, just walk. And so for me, we've got to figure out ways of bringing these conversations to bear, because there are often destructive ways to deal with your mental illness. And we as a society have destructive ways. I mean, heck, we have a sexual trauma to prison pipeline, for example, where we have criminalized people who are survivors of trauma. We have criminalized people who are struggling with addiction. We've criminalized, in fact, you've done reporting on the likelihood of Black men being shot by the police is a lot higher than a white male. Well, you are 12 times more likely to be shot by the police if you are struggling with a severe mental illness. And so these are issues that we are dealing with societally in a bad way. And we also are, I think, individuals within our communities we are not dealing with this with a constructive way. And I think all of us should watch how we are contributing to this atmosphere of shame if you're struggling, or are we helping to create more pathways and more lines to mental health? And I know so much as a guy who lives in the Black and brown low-income community that there's so much undiagnosed depression. There's so much undiagnosed mental illness that's out there where people just need healthcare. They just need help, but they're not given it, and their lives they're suffering as a result, in the same way that somebody would suffer if they had a wound or a physical illness if they didn't get treatment.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many people believe compartmentalizing is the solution. I'm going to bear down. I'm going to compartmentalize. I'm going to say I'm okay when I'm not okay. I'm going to be triggered by things and not acknowledge it. And they think that that's coping, but that's not. That is consuming. And in some point, to your point, Senator, it manifests in so many destructive ways. And we've seen the suicide number uptick amongst young teenagers, young Black and brown teenagers especially. And we know that finding a solution, though, which is a big part of why we're talking, is there. Having these conversations do matter. And I would love to bring in two more people to the conversation. And they are part of the Confess Project, and they launch America's first mental health barbershop movement. When I started reading about this, I am so here for it. We both know the importance of the beauty shop, barbershop culture. That is, when I was growing up, I'd watch, I guess, what was that show? Cheers. Norm was the gatekeeper of the conversation but so many people don't go to the bar, they go to the barbershop or the beauty shop to be able to open up. And we have Darnell Rice, who is the director of membership and engagement at the Confess Project. He travels the country training barbers to be able to be advocates for this real conversation. We also have with us Jay Divine Alexander joining us. He's been a barber for 26 years and has been putting his training into action at the Lab Barbershop in Louisville, Kentucky, the home of the great Muhammad Ali. So I'm going to put them in. Senator Booker, please don't laugh at my skills. I have them both with us here. I have the Confess Project, and then I've got Jay. Where are you, Jay? Oh gosh, don't embarrass me, everybody, in front of the senator. I can't handle it. I just sent requests to both of them if I'm doing this right. Well, let's see, do we have them? I've put in our requests. Meanwhile, you were saying you learned to journal as they join us. What else do you do to reset?
Well, I have to say, like the barbershop, these communities where men can come together and have honest, real talk, it creates an openness. It creates a healing. You may joke that I don't go to the barbershop, but actually sometimes I do, just to get, that straight razor on top of my head. So I'm so happy we have our first two gentlemen here, maybe to talk a little bit more about that. I'm excited.
Jay, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing, Tamron?
I'm better that I'm talking to two amazing, strong Black men about this powerful conversation. I see somebody's in the chair, so I don't want to distract you too much. I don't want to mess up.
No, you good. You good. I'm just happy to be interviewed by you. I watch you every day. You feel me in the barbershop. So.
Thank you. But, Senator Booker and I were just talking about, the power of community and the power to have this conversation. You've been a barber for 26 years. You've been putting this training into action with Darnell and this project. Tell me how this has impacted you, how you approach this.
Well, basically, I was dealing with depression and anxiety myself, and I still do. So when the presentation was presented, it was something that I had to jump on immediately because I felt like I could receive some help from it. And then the fact that he was talking about helping clients figure out how to get some help, I was like, wow, this is instrumental. So I'm like, it's helping me, it's helping others. So it's a twofold situation. And I just mirrored what I would share with them for myself, and just take it as advice.
I've got Darnell on the line. Let me bring in Darnell. He's here. Hold on. I think we get him on the line. I just sent the request to him. So, Jay, what was it like for you to open up and be so vulnerable, especially if we're going to go by stereotype, people believe the bravado of the barbershop. You know, we think Coming to America, we see the antics that I don't get to see. But, you know, what was it like for you to be so vulnerable?
Actually, it was time. I stopped being afraid, stopped holding it in, stopped just trying to deal with it myself. And it was time to just share it with the world and with myself, so where I could get some help, the proper help. And then not only that, again, the Confess Project, having them come at me at the time I was in a place like that was tremendous. So I've been a part of the Confess Project, just expressing how I feel and confessing how I feel, so it would help other brothers be able to open up and try to remove that stigma from that bravado of the barbershop, especially within our community. You know what I mean?
Booker, how do you feel when you hear someone like Darnell say this and speak truth to the matter, I guess?
It's deep. It's deep because we may have this illusion that mental health challenges are rare or a small portion. But I'm telling you, mental health issues affect all of us because it's either us or someone in our family or someone close to us. And so the courage of this brother, I mean, he is telling it like it is, and he has an incredible forum through this organization to try to get other people to open up with the truth of anxiety, of depression, of stressors. We know Black male life expectancy is the lowest there is, with exception of maybe Native American male life expectancy. There are many stressors in this world affecting our well-being and our health. You said it about women in a nation that doesn't have family leave, that doesn't have high-quality childcare. We see people balancing financial stress, the challenges of parenting, all of these things. These things mount up. And to deny that we are human is compounding this challenge. So I want more Black men to be talking about this. Frankly, I want more men, period. And I definitely want us as a society to begin recognizing that a key part of our health crisis in America is not just diabetes rates too high, hypertension, but also the rates of depression, the rates of serious anxiety, and more is high in this country.
I think again, Price, the director, of course, of this great campaign, Jay Alexander, phenomenal barber, on the line with us. And Jay, I keep calling you Darnell because I'm frazzled trying to work this device in front of me. I don't know how you're cutting hair and doing this. You are the man. So let me ask you.
Well, I try to be.
I'll give you the title. Listen, when you hear other men, other Black men in the chair open to you, how does that feel? How rewarding is that for you?
Well, how it feels to me is when they open up, I get a feeling of healing, because now you're vulnerable. Now you're removing the stigma, and we can deal with the situation head on at hand, you know? So it makes me feel good to know that I'm touching somebody, I'm impacting somebody's life to where they can be vulnerable enough to open up too. And if we start a ripple effect, that's all it is, throwing the rock in the water and hoping to get a ripple effect for the brothers that seem to be macho. I seem to not want to share. I seem to not feel like they have feelings, and they hide it and mask it in other forms, you know, whether it's whatever, you know, sex, drugs, rock and roll, hip hop, sports, or whatever. But I'm glad that people are opening up, and it makes me feel good to answer
Senator
your question.
Booker, Jay Divine, since he's my friend, I can call him Divine. You know, he's really a frontline worker when you think about it. These are the front lines, especially in the Black community.
Yeah, look, I'm sorry, all of us. I need it. We need people that we can open up to and be vulnerable with, and share our struggles with. This is a human condition, and anybody who pretends like they're not that person, I think is only doing a disservice to themselves and doing a disservice to others. Real courage cannot be found unless you show vulnerability. You know, that soldier doing that heroic act is only courageous because he makes himself vulnerable. He's willing to be vulnerable. Well, in our own lives, the more we open up and show our humanity, our vulnerability, our struggle, we empower other people just by showing that kind of courage. And so again, here is a man that's willing to say, like I've seen some more professional athletes do more recently, which really is important, which I've seen more people who have platforms begin to speak truth to the mental health challenges that they are facing, to speak truth that they are struggling in this world. And again, all of us at some period in our lives are going to be there. And it's important we begin to show courage and outreach.
Right. And the Confess Project, as I said, we're trying to get Darnell on. The mastermind behind the Confess Project, has trained almost 300 barbers and counting in this. I mean, Divine, in your wildest dreams, could you have ever imagined 300 barbers around the country, Black men, being at the front of this conversation, using your talent, but also your voice and your heart and your story as you've done?
No, I never would imagine it. I mean, I believed in the project when he came to me, but when he had the idea to make it go further, I was just following the lead. I was just, a soldier in the Army. So to see us go 100 barbers, 25 cities, this is amazing. You know what I mean? This is really amazing.
Yeah. Senator Booker, before we wrap up, I'll let you get the final word on just the larger impact of this building of a community where, as the Confess Project does, we recognize that no matter where we are, there's no reason to leave anyone behind. You can reach us from the head to the heart, and that's what they're doing at the Confess Project.
I tell you, the greatest calling of any of us is to love one another. And I'm sorry, love isn't sentimentality. It's showing up. It's being there. It's being vulnerable. And what I want folks to know is that the Confess Project is extraordinary. There are people, there are organizations that will help you. And I'm hoping more and more of us don't suffer in silence, but are willing to reach out to others to help us cope in a very challenging world. So I'm just really grateful. I know we just got joined by another extraordinary.
Yes, the man behind the Confess Project.
There he is.
Bryce in the house, the director of membership and engagement at the Confess Project, traveling the country, training barbers. Before we wrap up, Darnell, thank you so much for joining us. Why was this so important for you to get barbers like Divine on the front lines of this? Do I have you? Uh-oh. I think we're having audio. This is a live show, ladies and gentlemen. Do I have you? Darnell? Darn it. We can't get his audio going. I'll tell you what, Senator Booker, if we want to do this again, at the end of the month, I'm available. We can all make this a date again to have this important conversation. I know you're busy. You are leading by example and all of the things you've got. But if you've got a minute on your calendar, we'll try to get it all done again.
Let's circle back because I don't think we can have this conversation enough. So I would love that.
Can I get one more in real quick, Senator? Can I ask you a question,
Please.
Senator? Okay, appreciate it. Actually, I have one of those in the chair that I work with. But I want to ask you a question, though. As far as the efforts to decrease mental trauma in the Black and brown communities, as well as holding police accountable and the unions accountable, what is your plan to ensure that qualified immunity is eradicated as part of your comprehensive police reform legislation?
So I appreciate you asking that question because I've got negotiations today on this. So my plan is simple. It's out there already. It's the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. The challenge is, we don't have enough senators to get that bill passed as it is, which means we got to enter into negotiations, and you negotiate with the Republicans. And so I'm not sure how far we're going to push the bar. We're going to make some progress if we can get this bill done. There will be progress. But obviously, I think we should eliminate qualified immunity altogether. I have a strong beliefs on that. But the question is in this climate, this is why what happened in Georgia is a great example. folk came out and voted. Black folks in that state, along with others, but black folks voted at record numbers, and we elected an African American to the Senate along with John Ossoff, and that flipped the Senate to give us a chance to do a lot of good, but we didn't get a filibuster-proof a majority. So I just want to be real with you, man. I believe this idea that no one should be above the law. If a police officer violates your civil rights, they should not be shielded from civil liability. I agree with you 100%, but I'm just being real with you as a senator that's leading negotiations. It's going to be hard to get everything in our bill if we have to find some common ground and compromise. So I think we can make things better. That's why I'm in these good faith negotiations, but I'm not sure if we're going to get everything we want or need in a federal bill right now.
Well, at least it's on the table, and adequate mental health care for African Americans, people of brown color as well. We need all of that. So at least you're taking the steps to address these issues on a national and a federal level, so we can get the help that we need as African American men and boys and people of color.
And I'm going to add one more thing, because I just held a hearing on this in judiciary about this idea that we don't necessarily need police officers showing up when someone is in a mental health crisis. And we have seen horrible.
I agree.
Why don't we have mental health professionals who are trained show up to support people? So that is an element in the negotiation right now, is getting a lot more resources. There's a place in Oregon that did it through a program called Cahoots. They have lowered the number of calls to police because more people are turning to mental health professionals when they or their family member or friend is having a crisis. So you are right. There's a better way to do these things, and that is a part of our negotiation. But I will tell you this, you and I both know this, and it's the story of American history and in particular Black history. We cannot leave these issues for other people to solve. We all have to be doing something. The world will not change unless we do. And we're having a good conversation, hundreds and hundreds of people listening right now. But please leave this with accepting more responsibility for dealing with the mental health crisis we have in our country. You can do something in your life to help someone. We all have got to take some kind of action. And I appreciate you leading by example where you are right now. I appreciate Tamron Hall leading by example, using her platform. I just have nothing but love for you all. And I pray that our conversation today has helped more people.
Well, Senator Booker, thank you. Divine, thank you. I would be remiss without mentioning Breonna Taylor, who lived and lost her life in Louisville, Kentucky. So as we talk about the things that have been triggering, the things that have been painful to process along the way, as a Black woman, I raise her name up as Divine has raised up for his community, for our people, and the justice that we all deserve. So thank you, Divine, for everything that you do. I will be in Louisville, Kentucky, so I want a little off the side. I'll leave it to Senator Booker on what he decides to do with his hair a little bit later. But
I'm gonna inbox you my appointment schedule.
Listen, put me ahead of Senator Booker.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you both. I celebrate you both. Thank you, Senator Booker, for your leadership. Jay, Divine, thank you for being a king in our community. And I look forward to continue to watch all of this. And remind everyone, you can check out more of these one-to-one conversations all month long on the Mental Health Coalition Instagram page. Give them an @KennethColeReal a follow. Kenneth Cole, thank you for putting this together. Jill V, everyone, thank you. I'll let you get back to work, Divine. Thank you, Darnell, for all you're doing as well with the Confess Project.
Well, thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everybody.